Sorry, no, no, okay. Okay. The last time I discussed supply, the first thing I discussed the law of supply, and so that is the relationship between the quantity of supply and the price. That positive relationship we call law of team supply. With the other thing factors constant. Same time we learn what are the other factors and after the law of supply discussion or other determinants. So though we draw those things and also we try to develop the market demand from individual demand. There are two things I stressed there. The one is the given individual supply curve, how to get the market supply curve. In case sometimes individual supply curve is given inverse function or inverse supply. So I already mentioned how to you get it. We discussed last time. And yeah, again, the determinants what we discussed, the key, the market price, and also input prices we discussed, and the technology change and other factors also we try to identify. But some of the factors, it depends on the nature of the product, for example, weather and other factors. But the key main factors, let's say the number of producers, technology, input prices, and market price. And this also we discuss these two concepts. Sorry, somebody disturbed. Uh, concept, change in quantity supply and change in supply. What does mean change in quantity supply? With the price change, the quantity change, what we call change in quantity supply. Result, we move along the supply curve without shifting. Any other factor or factors change, the entire supply curve shift, that's what we call change in supply. These two concepts also we learn. After that, several examples we discuss in taking each factor, for example, input prices, including labor, the other materials we discuss. So the result, we saw the supply curve shift. We discussed several examples like this happened in this case. Yeah, these are the way I already mentioned. Maybe if you look at the past question papers also, you can look at how the exam question developed and given an article. So based on that, you have to analyze. And another component, another determinants, what we look at the technology improvement or technology also how affect the supply curve or supply we discussed. The expectations of the producers also we discussed the last time. This is another case. I used to give exam papers. So there I asked what happened to the supply curve, just to analyze reading. This is the one case, so example, I took from a book, Mankiw directly, and last time we did this. So they are understand. Now, I'm going to discuss with you the new topic related to demand and supply, how the market decide the or market clearing prices and the market clearing quantity. Or in other words, the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. The equilibrium mean here, that is the market decision, the market decide or clearing the market price and the market output decision. Before I start this one from last week, if you have any clarification, any questions, you can ask right now. Okay. Look like no clarification, no question. Now we took separately supply, separately demand, and here the related law of demand and law of supply, and the supply curve and the demand curve, and the market economy, the market mechanism, like Adam Smith said, the invisible hand decide. Though it's invisible hand, all players engage here. All players mean, like I explained last time, firms, the other side household, the consumers, and the producers, or consumers and supply, or demand and supply. They engage, but like I explained, the circular economy, it's go through the market when the demand and supply, they send the signal, the signal decide their supply, their market. As individual, they really don't know what happened in the market. So their preference, their portability, they demand and they supply. Happen with that negotiation in the point, what we call equilibrium price, they decide market price. This example, the market price is 3, the market outcomes is 15. The other supply equal the demand. Supply equal demand. So let's agree on the market and decide at the market. Now, the point is somewhere the price set somewhere above. If the market mechanism alone work, why I use the word alone, no regulation, no intervention, this automatically down at the supply and settle down again the equilibrium price. So equilibrium price. The opposite also, if the higher demand and the low supply, since the demand there and gradually back to the original equilibrium. But though what we call this market setting, this is dynamic again. Because like someone asked the question last time, if the external shock happen, what does mean? What does I mean? The external shock, the other determinants change. That's name of the shock. Maybe the policy shock or maybe the natural shock. Now, for example, income change. When income change, that be as a policy, or maybe the economic growth happen. So that's why the last time also I explained the policies the government can introduce to bring the economy the better level rather than directly control the price. So those things we will discuss here. For example, government wants to change this equilibrium price and quantity, whatever direction, rather than government say, giving the control price or control situation, government can introduce a shock using different policies, either to demand curve supply curve. So those determinant, with that, the equilibrium point is not static, constant, is also chain that is dynamic. To understand the equilibrium point in different ways, let me add a whiteboard. Now here, let's say you have, I draw the same graph first, and this price, this axis quantity. You have supply, you have demand. Point here, this equilibrium of market clearing the price, the buyer price. Let's say the buyer price becomes equal to seller price. The buyer price equal to seller price. That's what we call the equilibrium price. So the buyer and seller get same. The opposite, other side of the quantity also same thing happen. The equilibrium mean, here if I use the Q star, also this magic happen. There are the QD, which means the demand equal QS. Now here pointing, if you have separately, like you before learned, demand function, let's say 20 minus 2P, and the supply, let's say function, I'll do a very simple one, the 10, the minus 10, the plus P. So the demand supply, the function here. Now what we show here, the equilibrium point QD equal QS. If you take that concept here, we can get that value using the QD mean 20 minus 2P, QS mean minus plus plus P. Now we can find the P, or what we call P star, here. But we need the equilibrium price here. What we get. So I think everybody can do it and you can get it. And in this case, the P star become right. AP is 20, 30, and that comes the equilibrium price. Is the equilibrium price. Now, most of you know this, and rather most everybody, but still, at least you forgot, and or maybe come is proper way. I calculate, I do it, and now you know the market price. Either you can plug this value into demand function two supply function. Both you can find equilibrium quantity, which means Q star here. Of course, you know Q equal QS. Either equation, easy one you can use, because we are going to find the value here, equilibrium point. You can find that. So, if you the quantity of demand function or demand function 20 minus 2p. Now we know p is 10. Unfortunately, we got the 0. Oh, sorry, we got the 0. But this is an exceptional way that. Anyway, you know how to do right now. I'm going to give you one exercise. Let's say the demand function equal 100 minus O. The quantity of supply, let's say it is straightforward answer, equal P. Right? No, here better we take P. Now here, can you find equilibrium price and quantity and draw the supply curve and demand curve? And marks those value here. So I can give you maybe 2 minutes by the time you can find. What you have to do, QD equal QS with that you can find the equilibrium price and the equilibrium quantity. I hope you have done it. I hope you have done it. In this case, the equilibrium price, sorry, equilibrium quantity of course become 20, which means the market now move 20,000 or 20 million items. That's the equilibrium point. And the equilibrium price also you can get it. In this case become 60, the equilibrium price. I hope you are doing, and already you have done with me. So even this is very simple. Exam at least 2 questions comes like that. Some other link with the link questions. Now here, few things we can look at further. Now this is the equilibrium market clearing the price and the market clearing the quantity. Why is market clearing in this situation, in this market price and the market quantity, no exit supply or no demand becomes 0. All comes to the market clear. That's what we call the market clear. Now point here, let's say price become 70. Price becomes 70. Which means the price decides somewhere here. Now look at the situation. You can see now demand is somewhere here. You can find quickly. Supply somewhere here. Somewhere here. The price becomes 70. Supply, because the supplier get higher price, more supply come to market. The demand, I not calculate here, you can do that. It is 70 price, become less than somewhere here. This here, what you see here, we call the excess supply. More supply, because like I explained the last time, even the inefficient producers also come to the market because the price is high. They supply. It creates a market, the excess supply. The market has more goods and move in little, that get gap within the market. It create a situation like supplier tend to reduce the supply. Supplier tend to reduce the supply. So that's happened, and gradually the price goes down because the supply there, the more supply come, and the demand consumers so comes to the market, the customers has some more bargaining power in that way because there's so much suppliers there. Then the price goes down. Settle down again the equilibrium price. Opposite, also same. Let's say the price become $50. Price become $50. Now what happened in case of 50? Now look, since the price below the market price and the producers not encourage, or most efficient producers only can produce. With that, the supply goes down to up to this level, let's say S2 level. And demand, if the price is low, it get high demand, the demand increase. The demand increase. Ultimately, what happened, since less amount market, for more demand, we got excess demand, the price increase and again settle down to the equilibrium point. Let me see this another way. Look at really what happened in the market. Give me 1 second. Now, yeah, going to share a video. You can watch it. You can see it.
You get to switch wahala. Serikindaria. If you get encounter with time, you must laugh. Hey! You must laugh.
Are you playing? What type of playing is this?
You must laugh. You must laugh. If you get encounter with time, you must laugh. Serikindaria. Serikindaria. Hey, Serikindaria. If you get encounter with time, you must laugh. Serikindaria. 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 You get to switch wahala. Serikindaria. Serikindaria. If you get encounter with time, you must laugh. You must laugh. You must laugh. You must laugh. If you get encounter with time, you must laugh.
70 years old man.
Serikindaria. Serikindaria. Hey, Serikindaria. If you get encounter with time, you must laugh. Serikindaria. 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 You get to switch wahala. Serikindaria. Serikindaria. If you get encounter with time, you must laugh. You must laugh. You must laugh. You must laugh. If you get encounter with time, you must laugh. Serikindaria. Serikindaria. Hey, Serikindaria. If you get encounter with time, you must laugh. Serikindaria. 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 You get to switch wahala. Serikindaria. Serikindaria. If you get encounter with time, you must laugh. You must laugh. You must laugh. You must laugh. If you get encounter with time, you must laugh. Serikindaria. Serikindaria. Hey, Serikindaria.
Really, nigga?
If If you get encounter with him, you must to laugh. Serikin Daria, Serikin Daria, Serikin Daria, you get to switch wahala. Serikin Daria, Serikin Daria. If you get encounter with him, you must to laugh. You must to laugh. You must to laugh. You must to laugh. If you get encounter with him, you must to laugh.
Continue.
Serikin Daria, Serikin Daria. Serikin
Things say they're wise.
If you get encounter with him, you must to laugh. Serikin Daria, Serikin Daria, Serikin Daria, you get to switch wahala. Serikin Daria, Serikin Daria. If you get encounter with him, you must to laugh. You must to laugh. You must to laugh. You must to laugh. If you get encounter with him, you must to laugh. Serikin Daria, Serikin Daria, Serikin Daria. If you get encounter with him, you must to laugh. Serikin Daria, Serikin Daria.
What do we hear of this?
Serikin Daria, you get to switch wahala. Serikin Daria, Serikin Daria. If you get encounter with him, you must to laugh.
Hey!
He shot you.
You must to laugh. You must to laugh. You must to laugh. If you get encounter with him, you must to laugh. Serikin Daria, Serikin Daria, Serikin Daria. If you get
He shot you.
encounter with
You think say they're wise.
to laugh.
She what?
Serikin Daria, Serikin Daria, Serikin Daria, you get to switch wahala.
Hey! I hear me to me, but me.
Serikin Daria, if you get encounter with him, you must to laugh.
Mo jẹ jìyà lórí àwọn ọmọ yìí o. Mo jìyà lórí ìwé mú bá.
Laugh. You must to laugh. You must to laugh. If you get encounter with him, you must to laugh. Serikin Daria, Serikin Daria, Serikin Daria. If you get encounter with him, you must to laugh. Serikin Daria, Serikin Daria, Serikin Daria, you get to switch wahala. Serikin Daria, Serikin Daria. If you get encounter with him, you must to laugh. You must to laugh.
Are you playing?
You must to laugh. You must
He
to
shot
laugh.
you.
If you get encounter with him, you must to laugh. Serikin Daria, Serikin Daria, Serikin Daria. If you get encounter with him, you must to laugh. Serikin Daria, Serikin Daria, Serikin Daria, you get to switch wahala. Serikin Daria, Serikin Daria. If you get encounter with him, you must to laugh. You must to laugh. must to laugh. You must to laugh. If you get encounter with you must to laugh. Serikin Daria. Serikin Daria. Hey, Serikin Daria. If you get encounter with you must to laugh. Serikin Daria. Serikin Daria. Serikin.
Okay, come back. You can hear me again. Now you see what happened. Oh, that is not a real. That's a joke. But what happened? Market is not stay either above, below equilibrium price. Change, settle down the equilibrium level. Though I said that equilibrium is the market price, and that is dynamic. That's change whenever stocks comes to the demand side or supply side. For example, whatever reason demand curve shift like this, the market equilibrium price or market clearing price increase, and the quantity also increase. Now, the real world, when the stocks come to that demand side, again the supply side also reactions, and this always changing. So that part we will learn quickly. Before that, let me go back to the here. Now, if you get the demand and supply situation like this is a demand curve. This is the supply curve. But we clearly notice here decide the market price, or equilibrium price. Let's say $8. And here decide the equilibrium output. Let's say, for example, here 100 units. 100 units. Now, let me analyze go further this situation. Now, let's say you have the maximum price here. Let's say 20. Now, at least one consumer, one customer in terms of demand, willing to pay $20 for the same goods. Though really the market pay $8. In between 20 and 8, 10, 15, 12, whatever. Depend on the consumer's preference and their affordability, their willingness to pay even higher than market price. Over the other side of the story, also someone can't afford or not willing to pay 8, that part of the society there. But for them, maybe they can go for another product or other thing, and they can demand also. Now, taking the willingness to pay concept, if someone willingness to pay above the market price, for example, imagine you, depend on your income level or effort level and your willingness to pay for this good, you would like to pay $10. But when you go to market, really you pay 8. So that difference will, the difference between 10 and 8, we call it a consumer surplus. Consumer surplus. Now, the entire society, entire consumer segment, this entire area become the consumer surplus. The value of this area, what we call consumer surplus. Now you see, if the market decides the equilibrium price, since some of the consumers or some of the households willingness to pay higher than that, through the market it create a consumer surplus. The consumer surplus mean, as an individual, they can use this money for additional or buy the same goods for additional amount or some other thing. Or for example, right now, let's say you go to canteen or somewhere for lunch. You may be that level, you are hungry or you're irritable, you like to pay 10, but really the lunch packet is $8. That $2 is left with you. That is, you can use either eat some dessert or maybe you can go on the way back home, go to a bar and you can have a cup of beer, cup of wine or some other thing. Which means that additional dollar you save there, you can use for increase your satisfaction as a consumer. Increase your satisfaction as a consumer. Or maybe if you not, you can save it and that is also increase your satisfaction. That is the part of the, if you take the entire population, entire household, entire society, that part is a part of the welfare. Because if the market outcome, you can create a kind of higher consumer satisfaction, which means the consumer's welfare is better of the society. Better of the society. Now you can see, like last time I explained, any policy, any shocks, as a policymaker, as a government, if we introduce, have to look at the consumer surplus amount. Now, in this case, you can measure the consumer surplus very easily. What you have to do, the difference between here, the maximum willingness to price and the market price, in this case, $12, multiply, here the difference in this case, 100, divide by 2. Why we have to divide by 2? It's a linear demand curve, and we take the entire square and half of it. So divide by 2. If a nonlinear demand curve, of course, we have to use the integral and the kind of calculation, and you have to do that. So someone, the mathematically sound you can do. Otherwise, you can wait until I take those discussion come into derivative and integration, or in the mathematics unit they teach. In case of linear, of the exam purpose, the teaching purpose, I always use the linear demand and supply curve, but the practical is not the case. So if one want to do research and calculate, let's say someone work with the central bank, someone work with the treasury, or your own research, you want to real situation calculate, you have to go for standard mathematical calculation. Now here the value is the consumer surplus. In that case, ultimately what you get, $60. $60. Let's say 60 million, whatever 60. That is the consumer surplus create if you use market mechanism. Now at the same time, the other side, down here, it's a supplier. Let's say you are the supplier. If you produce this product, sell it market, sell at market, you sell at $8. But still some efficient supplier, efficient producer, less than $8 you can supply. In all them, for example, let's say one supplier willing to is reportable apply $5 because he is efficient due to say scale of the firm or his good management, whatever way. For him, additional profit, he can earn each unit $5 to $8. Like that, there are a range of suppliers between 8 to 0. Them, if you calculate all the areas value here, we call as producer surplus. Producer surplus. Now you can see the market creator, the consumer surplus and the producer surplus. That's the one as a policymaker has to look at, not just to equilibrium price and quantity. Policymaker has to look at and deal with. Why I use the deal with mean when they make the policies, when you analyze the policies, has to look at that area. Well, they are the one, is we talk about the consumers and producers satisfaction. In other words, their welfare. Now we don't forget, consumers is between household and the producers, the part of the society. Entire society, you remember we categorize household, that may be consumer, what you call, at the other side, the producer. Their satisfaction become ultimately entire society, which means the social welfare. Now, social welfare in that way, if you want to measure consumer satisfaction plus producer satisfaction. Producer satisfaction. Now, if you are a policymaker, if you are doing research, now you can easily the market price and measure, and if you have the demand and supply curve, amount of social welfare created when the market or even the intervention. But I will come later on. Now, this particular example, this hypothetical number I took, and you can see the calculated producer plus as well. Here the difference is 8, that means the 8. Here difference is 100, 8 multiply 100. Here also we take the linear supply and demand curve. Divide by half, you can get the producer surplus, which means our case become $40. If I'm correct. Now you can see the consumer surplus become $60. Producer surplus become $80. In terms of a million, if you take the 40 million and 60 million. So according to neoclassical microeconomics, this is the best result. The result what you develop, bring through the market mechanism. Like you remember one principle what we discussed, that is the best amount of social welfare then economy can generate through this specific product, specific goods. That is the best. That's what I said the economy create optimal or Pareto optimal level or economic nirvana situation. So they are the maximum optimal amount of social welfare created. Now, with this particular example, much social welfare because here $60, $3 million, or here 40, ultimately social welfare created $100 million. Now the policymakers has to look at this amount rather than like central bank or treasury looking this number here, the output take the measure the GDP. When you measure the GDP, we take unfortunately here the welfare also came 100, but there's no relation. It's not equal always. This 100 we take measure GDP. Our policymakers' mistake here, they don't look at how much the welfare generated in society. That indicator is the one we can use for the economic social development measurement purpose. Now, the point here, like one principle, economic principle say, this is the best result, though the second principle, you remember, latest simple principle say the government can improve the situation. But later you can see any kind of price intervention. Government can intervene in different way to improve the result. I'm not talking about this, all the intervention. But the price and the direct intervention here, the government intervention, later you can see price control, for example, ceiling or price floor. Ultimately, what happens, the social welfare generated through the market reduce or goes down. Even the government impose tax, that happen. Even the government gives subsidies to this industry, that happen. So that is the point what you have to look at. So in that way, as your level, what kind of policies, what kind of strategies you have to think, government or whatever intervention, we can use to improve this social welfare. In this case, $100 million social welfare. Now, when you do so, sometimes the policymakers can take a household side or the consumer side. That part you can increase. That part you can increase. At a trade-off may result, at a trade-off may result, producer surplus goes down. But ultimately, the total welfare increase. As a policymaker, we can say you are effective and you are doing a good job. Ultimately, social welfare increase. The opposite also may happen when you try to do your policies, producer surplus increase, but the result, the consumer surplus decrease, but ultimately, entire social welfare improve, you are succeed. Your policy succeed. Because ultimately, we have to look at the entire society, not the part of the society of consumer. But there also you have to be careful, like Sri Lankan government doing, just impose tax or whatever, government try to get only tax revenue, not thinking of this inside the objective of the tax. Because the tax revenue generate revenue from tax, generate government revenue, only one simple objective. The government impose tax wider, achieve the wider objective, ultimately create a higher social welfare. So our government, currently the worst I see, And situation completely different. Government think tax is the way, only way, the main way to get government revenue. No, the tax is a tool to address the other market failure issues. They ultimately improve the social welfare, not the government revenue. Even the government revenue include, it has to link to the social welfare, and the social welfare ultimately should be able to increase the W here, that is social welfare. What I mentioned, ultimately W, which means if the government want to, let's say, discourage the particular product, let's say higher negative externality, let's say maybe it's a badly affect to the society, that is negative externality, or maybe the foreign exchange negatively affect. If a government want to discourage such product, maybe the government impose policies to reduce producer surplus. But when you reduce the producer surplus, the policymaker has to look at what happened to the consumer side also. Consumer surplus side also. Right? So, unfortunately, our part of the world, what mean our part of the mean Sri Lankan situation, our policymakers, if I mentioned our policymakers really deal with those policies, central bank and treasury. When, of course, they don't introduce policy, our politicians introduce policy. Because they think they are the one who killed, that's what happened. Even for justification, I know central bank has a research division and the treasury also have. They are PhDs also. They do that kind of study and look at that way, analyze the policy. Analyze the policies. We have a log rolling situation. In that way, they also answer, they also try to support the politician's argument. In that way only, they know they can get the promotion and things and they can survive even. So that is the bad situation. Also, though new government came to power, as a system change, it did not happen. Now we can see this might be the worst situation right now. The many places, even the you can see the right now in the universities also, and many places that is happened. Because of that, the policy makers, I'm not saying the politician or those who analyze the policy makers, they, though they are capable, they are tight, and because of some other thing, they don't do kind of proper analysis. And so to convince the politician, or in our part of the society, it's very difficult to convince the politician also, because they think they know better than the others, and they are not listening. Sometime back in the one of the serious stories with R. Premadas in the power, and some people, they take the decision, even the go beyond the engineer's decision. And remember, sometime happened the develop Gamuda and those kind of things. The result, of course, now you can see the many places. So this kind of we expect sometime back the new government come, but the new government is not also this kind of system change and doesn't give some freedom to policymakers to make those kind of policies and argument. And that is the, I think, the worst case, what we see in Sri Lanka. In some developed countries, for example, I remember sometime in the USA, even the Australia, the Singapore, they listened and this not happen. Now, what I try to explain here, using the equilibrium point, your level, we have to understand, rather than say this is the equilibrium of market price and market quantity, you should understand why we learn and for policy analysis. So here I try to introduce how to measure, how to capture consumer surplus and producer surplus. Another part also here, usually no one in the microeconomics test, no microeconomics test also explain, no microeconomics teachers discuss this part also. Later, I show you this part also understanding very important. Not just that, like last time I say the total cost. Because that is the amount of total cost to produce this amount of 100 units. And you can see the producer surplus plus this total cost become producer's revenue. Now, this total cost part, not listen as the total cost, you have to understand what it is. That is also an important thing. Now, otherwise, maybe everybody must know this is the cost, but you have to understand a little bit in between and the line. Go a little bit inside here. We talk about the total cost, what really it is. Now, let's say you are the producer. This total cost mean what you pay to your labor, what you pay to a management, what you pay to the bank as a interest rate when you take the loan, what you pay to your material, raw material providers. Now, for example, let's say this is the yogurt product and the milk producers. What you pay to your entrepreneurs. Those are the thing here. What they mean, don't forget that their income. You remember the circular economy we discussed, the household we send to those things, and in the name of salaries, wages, and interest rate, these are the things they take as their income. Their income. Now look at the policymakers has to look at the concern of this area also, because that has become the society, the household income. Household income. If something damage to that part, though you say the cost of product at the producer side, if something damage to that part due to your policy, here the household also had to suffer. Household is a unit. Household head, someone work here. If the average household member is a 5, the 4 plus 5 also suffer. Majority of the society in that case suffer. I don't know, the policy makers, those analyze their policies, regulated thing, they look at that one. Easily nowadays you can see that some industries, some firms closed down, and the policymakers say, oh, this is the previous government things, this happened, just keep it shut down. But maybe they try to give only their party people only jobs. But some of the it's bad to their life here, social life. That create the unrest within the society also. So many issues come. When a microeconomic textbook or microeconomic analysis is silent on this part, but it's a real matter, even the higher than this I use the word untouching, social, producer surplus and consumer surplus. Why I use the untouching? Because it's not really negatively affect your consumers and producers. But here, if you lost your job due to government policy, really is unrest created within the society, within the household, and damage to the society also that. Now, when you look at the equilibrium prices and quantity, this analysis, your level, like advanced level or the undergraduate level, just calculate this value is not enough. So you have to look at the insight and think of those that way analyze. With that, I will continue. But if you have, I saw someone want to ask a question also, I'll stop this point. Maybe we can have the 5-minute discussion. Or if you have any questions, I will leave you some time for the discussion. Any questions, any clarification? Okay. Again, look like no. I go back here. Now, this is the point in the PowerPoint presentation I stopped and to understand the equilibrium point. So we did using the demand and supply function, how to calculate the equilibrium point. So that is repeatedly come for the exam. How to calculate the equilibrium price, equilibrium quantity, how to measure producer surplus, how to measure consumer surplus, how many number of person employ or they are earning. Also, you should be able to measure and compute. Now, this is the thing I again discussed, is equilibrium price, and above the equilibrium price set, it create the market surplus or what we call active supply, market surplus. So again, in the exam level, you should be able to measure how much the surplus. Now, price about, let's say here 8, let's say here 10. It creates the surplus, this amount of value. Not only just, let's say, if I calculate here 80, here let's say 110. You can say this is the surplus is 30 unit here. But look at the value of also here. The monetary value of that surplus. Also think of, for example, let's say the government create this kind of price control. We will discuss any later on. Create the surplus is create this amount value also. Now, what does this value mean? Though this surplus is real, the demand is 80. The extra create this value, what to that? Though they are somebody's income, additional creating its value. You have to look at different. Now, this is the price above the market equilibrium. Now, below the equilibrium point, if it is market below the equilibrium point, sorry, give me 1 second. Sorry. Now what I tell you, the price is below. I hope you can hear me. It creates the market shortage. Because higher demand and less supply. Now, this is also, you have to look at just to, in the exam, first thing I asked you, measure the shortage or value of the shortage also. But in addition, you must look at if this kind of shortage happen in the particular industry, what really is how it's affect to the industry, how it affect to the society, how it affect to the economy. The shortage. How the shortage sort it out. Also, those things you have to look at. Later on, we can discuss those things more. The other thing I explained already, like market is above, decide above. Now, this example, market price is the 5, the equilibrium price is 6. You can see it creates a economic surplus. Like I explained, in such situation, like you watch that movie also, video clips, and the gradually price goes down. Of course, that case the price increases happen. And again, the market settle down back to the equilibrium. Price will fall and settle down. The opposite also I discussed. The price is below. Now in this the 4, he said the opposite happen. Price increase, back to settle down the equilibrium price. So shortage become begin 0. This is the beauty of the market mechanism, because automatically it settle down and the market clearing things happen. Now, this with the number, you can see how to calculate. In the exam, you should be able to do that. Here the price is 5. The quantity is, you can see the 9 here. And the supply 25. It creates a 16 unit surplus. 16 unit of surplus. That's the number. Within the number, you can see this, the amount of value it will create. Right? And also, how it's happened, the price goes down and the surplus reduced and bring the surplus back to 0. Opposite, the shortage happen, they also you should be able to calculate. Let's say the price is 1. Now the demand become 21 lead here. Supply become 5. The shortage becomes 16. You can see. So ultimately, they are also back to the equilibrium point. Now here, the other thing I mentioned, that is a new thing I'm going to discuss with you. This equilibrium, like I mentioned, is not the concrete solid thing. It's change due to external shock. Maybe the shocks come to, or shocks affect to the supply or demand. Now, this particular example, you can see due to shock, supply curve shift. Equilibrium level drop down. Equilibrium level goes back down. Now, here, another way, the equilibrium change, and shocks introduced the demand side, is maybe the natural shock, or maybe the policymakers can create that kind of shock. So that equilibrium also change. In this case, the price and quantity increase. So when these shocks happen, our policymakers, I mean the policymakers, like let's say central bank research division or treasury or places, they should be able to quickly measure how much the social welfare in terms of 3 things, of course: consumer surplus, producer surplus, and the economy income, household income change. They should be able to measure, not just say this increase, this decrease, and inflation create kind of word. So another way, you can see the both. That is the reality most happen. Not only the demand shock, not only supply shock, and the shock may come to both. Now, this is the real situation. Though what you look at the equilibrium and real world, you can stop things happen. Always shocks affect to their demand and supply and the equilibrium. then you might ask me a question or yourself. But if you go to the market, years and years, month and month, the prices are same. That's why that happened. Because if you want to buy a bread and if you're going to buy some other thing, but this thing, though what we talk about the pre-market is a samya control. Many things in country like Sri Lanka, it's a control. But if you look at the each minute, each second, each hour, each day, if you play the stock market, if you work with the foreign exchange market, you can see how they are changing. Now, suddenly, let's say the Donald Trump says something, the USA, you can see the quickly the stock price goes to increase or decrease thing happen. One of the example, the last some time back, Donald Trump introduced that reciprocal tax policies, tariff. So suddenly, if you just after that, if you watch the equilibrium price, foreign exchange, and the stock market, and increase and decrease thing happen. So that's the reality, because that's the world, all world engage, and only shocks may come in. Government can't keep it as the control price. But here, the day-to-day, what you engage in the bread price, the tea price, and this maybe, though I said that it's change, but you can't see really day-to-day changes there. Now, what I try to say, the reality like this in the market, to understand the reality, at least though you don't invest in the Sri Lanka, we don't have such a culture, not the local stock market, and try to at least as a dummy or trial version, try to play stock market. You can see how this equilibrium situation change, and you can study the world political and economy and the natural disaster change. You can see how the equilibrium price also change. Right? Now, this is the one example. So I'm not going to elaborate much because I leave for you those things. And this is kind of an exam question I used to give, maybe the exam also I'll give a real world things happen and analyze. You see the question also, analyze this case with the support of demand and supply curve. And this also another thing, and it's also another ways doing question. Now, yeah. As a last point, I'll take this table. I take this table. Now look at this table. It talk about change in equilibrium, ISO quantity, both. Now what I need from you, when you come to next time, or maybe next time I give a, based on that, we will have a group discussion and I'll give marks also. But when you come to the lecture, I may randomly or everybody look at whether you have done also, like I did the physical class last time. You have to do, yeah, the one thing, each and every scenarios and every cases here, oh, the graph like original equilibrium, for example, let's say this is the original equilibrium. One. Now here I can say the four cases. 1, 2, 3, 4 cases here. Each case, you can see what I call is a 3 scenarios, which means you have to draw this is the original situation. Each case, 3 different diagram and show what really happened to either equilibrium price or either equilibrium quantity or. The same thing like the second case also, with original another 3. Altogether, each case is 4 graph. Original another 3. Original another 3. Original another 3. And draw, maybe you can add another column here, you can draw there, and you have to show me next class. So I will explain, for example, the case change in supply, which means supply increase. Now, let's say the original supply curve is zero like that. Here the case is a say scenario, supply increase. You know supply increase, supply curve shift this way, S1. So that happened. Change in demand decrease. The original demand here, when the demand decrease, demand curve shift that way. So this is the now when this happen, both together, supply increase, demand decrease. This situation, always you can see the equilibrium price goes down. So I want to see that always how it goes down. And also these 3 cases, one scenario, not cases, one scenario, quantity increase, equilibrium quantity increase. The other one, the equilibrium quantity decrease, the other one, no change. Reflect these 3 scenarios or situation. You have to draw 3 different diagram like this. Second one also come in like 3 different diagram. There are 3 past 3, 6, and the third case also another 3. Fourth case also another 3. Altogether 12. That is the best exercise you have to do. Best exercise you have to do. So these are coming like a shock. What the shock happen? Engine supply increase means that link to policy or other. Now the second exercise is not the only way to change equilibrium price and quantity. It's only 4 cases. You expand this table further 5, 6, 7 cases and any possibility to change, to see the shock introduce, change the equilibrium price and the quantity. Hope you understood. If you did not understand, please ask me. Why I asked this question the last maybe several years. Same exercise when I gave, majority make the mistake, which means they really did not understand maybe my communication problem or maybe they, whatever reason, they do completely different thing. If we really did not understand, please ask any question. With that, we can stop. And if no questions, we can stop. And also this, I share with my YouTube also, this live YouTube, and also anytime you can go and listen there also. No, though I don't share with the record. That. Any question related to exercise, not assignment, exercise, and your individually you can do. But the next week, I give a most probably one discussion topic to discuss your group and make a presentation related to that thing. Okay. Though little bit early, because I want to do small exercise and link to next topic, elasticity discussion. Rather stop the elasticity right now. I want to stop here since we have enough time. Whatever discussed today, you have any question, any advice to me or any comment you can do. If you don't have, you can leave the meeting. I also no questions. Few seconds, few minutes. I also leave the meeting. Thank you very much. And yeah, that's all.
Professor, can I
Okay.
ask a question?
Yes. Good.
Thank you,
Correct.
Professor.
Yeah. Now, when you talk about now the explanation, the market equilibrium and the policy intervention,
Mhm.
but in the context of Sri Lanka, because of the oligopoly situation and the information asymmetry, we may have a market operating below the equilibrium. So in that context, don't you think the government intervention may improve the social welfare?
Exactly. That's what I see the number 8, the principles and the market give us a good result and the optimal, but the market failure happen, then we have the invitation for the government. But of course, the government madly intervention, you can see it everywhere in the society right now. Exactly what you said. That is the one point. Of course, you mentioned 2 points. The market failure. One is the asymmetric information. You really know that. And the other one is the imperfect market. What you mentioned, the oligopoly, such a way.
Yeah.
In that situation, the government, that is the things, the policymakers has to intervene there. That's what we call second best policy. Now, our policymakers, if they don't understand that one, they may intervene somewhere else and created the more problem. That's what we call the government failure.
Yeah.
So exactly what you say, the asymmetric information case, the government intervention can improve the result and bring the even what I call the economic nirvana level. And the other one also, not only the oligopoly, the monopoly, and also monopolistic competition a little bit also, but mainly what you said, the oligopoly and the monopoly. There also the government intervention can, but the worst case is, whatever the name of that government intervention, we get the opposite result in this country. They use that kind of ways, but the opposite result. Exactly what you said there. When the intervention, then in that case, the policymakers has to look at, the policymakers has to analyze what happened to the social welfare, what happened to this Pareto optimal level, and whether we can think of reach to economic nirvana level. That kind of policy discussion, policy analysis, the only thing is maybe we don't have enough human resources, and other thing like we play like log rolling. Because if you don't back your politicians' support, and they don't help you get your promotion, they don't get it. That exactly happened. I mean, I can't point out many reasons. One of the reason Colombo University things also you can see, because that's kind of expectation we had before the government side and the political side. This happened because the system change did not happen this time. This is the case in the, like you said, society gets the best, better than the market system. So that's what you said, the two principle what we discussed. You're exactly right.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor.
But there are other point also the government intervention. Like for intervention, one of the tool, the government used the tax. Now the tax has to direct to address those things rather than just government use as the government revenue mechanism. That's another problem right now. Now, rather than address the asymmetric information, rather than address the, what you say, the oligopoly, another thing, asymmetric externalities and plus those things. Now government use those kind of just for earning money to the government or government revenue. That is the thing. We have to revisit, and we need a kind of lobbying and more discussion there. Thank you very much asking that question anyway, because I like and yeah.
Thank you, Professor.
Professor, I am Sanat. May I ask a
Sure.
question?
Yeah.
Professor,
Others, if you
actually,
don't have question, you can leave if you don't want, right? Others, yeah.
So
Sanat.
actually, as we discussed, overall social welfare probably technically determined by the consumer surplus plus producer surplus. Actually, but the government usually intervene the social welfare, yeah, sometimes in a unregulated way, maybe sometimes, and also with a lot of subsidized price levels, control price levels, intervened by government. Does central bank has any kind of formal systematic method of giving the signals to the government, dealing with this overall technically calculated or assessed uh, social welfare, uh, social welfare, volume of social welfare possible, at whether do they have this government, the central bank has the mechanism to guide the government, giving the signals based on this technicality regarding overall social welfare, whether they maintain the database or any models to give any signals to the government, how to determine the social welfare interventions.
Yeah, I think that's a very good question, but I don't know where you get central bank there. So that's why the central bank also sometimes the kind of argument now we already had the independent, but it's now even though what we call independent and also even the treasury and those kind of agent now become politicians agent, though independent. So those central bank expectation, the central bank and the division, research division and the PhD, that's the role of course, but unfortunately, though we say that is the nirvana, it's not happening because so many things happen the system. If try to someone do like that, he may not of course lose the job, but he may get some punishment, some maybe he may get what he expected promotion, and this not happen within our system. In that way, those people there, they keep silent. Those people knowledgeable to do technical argument and they keep silent because the others, the political and politicians, the tricks and their argument is quite harm to those people. That is the system change what we expected. So, I mean, for example, I know even the Chinese PhD student, they are in the Chinese central bank and doing that kind of analysis with their strong back. It's then the politician, they listen. They are not like our politician, like they think they know everything and they are the boss. That issues come in, like you said, they are capable people. They know the techniques. They can do that. Even if you talk to some people in the treasury individually, they know that. But within the system, even look at you, maybe if you go to the government, you might have so many things. But our system, that's what we call. So this time Nobel Prize also got the people, those York universities and people, they study this system created through the colonization is the main bottleneck for the development. That system we still worship. That system we are in. So that's the problem. Otherwise, of course, like you said, there are system, there are mechanism, there are tools to do that. But unfortunately not happen. It's not the
Thank you,
central
Professor.
bank, other places also. Now, for example, for the government is sometime back at the create the IPS for that in the government, like support the policy. But though now IPS was the externally doing separately, I don't know, the really doing the independent research to support the policymaker rather than they try to increase their consultation and they are better off this side. Because the consultation job is a completely different thing. There are also the mafia things happen. If you don't log roll goes, maybe next time you don't get any businesses. That's the things happen in the country.
Thank you, Professor. One more clarification, if possible. Actually, we became surprised still after this economic crisis. Actually, still central bank only focus on the high level, macroeconomic level, variables or whatever. They just focus and try to manage, not obviously focusing on what happens to the MSME level. So it is actually, it is maybe as general public, it is sort of surprise for us.
No,
Why
no,
it
no. That
does.
is I'm not an expert in central bank activity, but it's not the basically central bank job. There is must be
Okay.
the mechanism for that, because central bank is the
Uh-huh.
stability they have to look at. But we don't have a system. I don't know whether the policy level, though we have, to take the central bank and the treasuries and all the other institutions together, make the like a holistic way, look at, and then to take the decision and break those things, what the central bank has to do, what the treasury has to do, what the Ministry of Ministry of Industry has to do. This kind of overall understanding and division, because there are some other institutions, look at what you said, SMEs and things. Then the SMEs come, give to central bank signal, and then the bank instrument. That would happen. So that's the
Thank you.
overall system we don't have.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Understand. Thank you, Professor.
Okay, I'll stop. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Professor.